Welcome to another episode of Behind the Shield. Thanks for attending, and I appreciate everybody's attention during the session. Today we have Jackson Gorman, an associate at InfusionPoints, and we're gonna have him describe a little bit about who he is, what he's about here at InfusionPoints, and then we have another guest who'll be joining us in a few minutes as well. So Jackson, give us just a quick overview of who you are and what you do here at InfusionPoints.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I've been watching the episodes coming out, and it's been really fun to learn a lot. You don't get that level of insight all the time when we're working day to day. So,
Right.
My name's Jackson Gorman. I'm on the advisory team here with InfusionPoints, and I guess a little background on me. I grew up in New York, moved down to North Carolina when I was younger. I went to school at Appalachian State University, right around the corner from InfusionPoints headquarters in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and just happened to come across this role when a friend of mine, Jason Redding, who was also on the podcast, was like, "Hey, we're working really well together on this project, and there's a spot at InfusionPoints you may be interested in applying." So I was like, you know what? I'm putting all the feelers out there. I'm about to graduate. Gotta pay off these student loans, and I had a few interviews. I met with you as the final interview, and I just got really great energy from my ability to jump in and get a lot of experience out of the gate. Ever since then, I've been working all sorts of different avenues within InfusionPoints, project management and program management. I've also recently got my CISA, which was
Congrats
a big
on that, by the way.
accomplishment for me. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's given me a whole new lens, especially as we help our customers go through their audits, working with various audit teams, and especially with a lens on some of the newer technology that's coming out. I'm sure we'll talk about today. But yeah, it's been a good ride. I've really enjoyed my time here. I've been here for almost 5 years now.
Isn't that crazy?
And I know it's been crazy. It's funny because you kind of live by the audit seasons.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I got an audit this month. I got an audit this month. So things kind of fly by on you. But yeah, it's been a great time.
Well, we've thoroughly enjoyed having you here, and what you do. And one of the guests, the guest that we have today is one of your customers. I want to say he was probably one of your first customers as well. No, actually, he wasn't your first. I think he was your second. But it really fit right into with what we were trying to do with our XBU 40 platform, trying to get our overall platform certified, and then bringing customers, onto that. So with that said, let's go ahead and bring Teo on, and we'll turn it over to Jackson, and you could talk to Teo just for a minute or so, and then maybe do some introductions with himself as well. So,
yeah, for sure.
Teo, you want to introduce yourself? So.
Yeah, hi, my name's Teo Balbach. I'm the CEO of CoachMePlus. We sell athlete management systems, which is configurable software that allows you to sort of basically build your own proprietary version of MyFitnessPal. We've been in business for about 12 or 13 years, and I've been here for most of that time. I'm the CEO, but I also get highly involved in sort of the technology planning, not writing the software, but sort of planning what we're doing next, what are we working on for the next month, 2 months. And so I'm sort of highly involved at the project level, and also interface with our larger customers for any specific things that they need, such as complex cybersecurity.
Well, cool. I appreciate that little bit of a background, but maybe give us some more background of CoachMePlus, and why and how you created CoachMePlus.
So I joined as CEO about 13 years ago when it was like 4 or 5 people. The company, the predecessor entity, had been a fee-for-service web shop, and they had picked up different projects along the way for here and there. And they'd gotten a job many years ago building CD-ROMs for the Buffalo Sabres. And so they were doing some marketing thing on CD-ROMs. This is like 20 years ago. And the strength and conditioning coach, a guy named Doug McKenney, who's now with the Colts, said, "Hey, how can I get this CD-ROM and put workouts on it so I can give it to my guys when they go home to Finland for the summer?" Because these are 19-year-old boys that are amazing athletes, but they don't know like basics of lifting and how much they should or should not lift. And so the project started many, many years ago on that effort, and it was sort of a work of just a labor of love every year to do it for the strength coach of the Sabres. Sabres got bought by a guy named Terry Pegula, who's now also owns the Bills around in 2011. All of a sudden there was budget to do stuff. And they funded the initial prototype for this in 2011, 2012. And in 2012, Stephen Ostro and Kevin Davidovich, two of the co-founders, snuck into the NHL Combine up in Toronto and signed two other teams, the Edmonton Oilers and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So they had this cool opportunity for managing athletic data. They had a bunch of marquee customers. They had 5 professional teams. They couldn't figure out how to raise money. And so I joined the team to sort of bring some financial structure to that. And that was about 13 years ago. And I've been on the technology side of the house for that time. And we would go to sort of how we got into the cybersecurity side, even though like in some years we would sometimes have like $2 billion worth of athletic payroll that use our system, which is just outstanding. By the time you roll up a handful of NFL annual payrolls, you get into very high numbers very quickly.
It doesn't take too many teams to do that, right?
Yeah. So it's just comical. Now these guys don't pay us a lot, and they say they want cybersecurity, and it's got to be really secure, but it's a different test than having to do corporate cybersecurity. And so we weren't that familiar with the area, other than, hey, the platform needs to generally be secure. You need to take care of stuff, and we had a lot of security procedures. You can go down the list, but it wasn't like enterprise grade security in any way. Certainly couldn't pass an audit or a test of any kind. And so we would start going to all the combines. So the NFL combine, the NHL combine, NBA combines, which is when there'd be a meeting of all the strength and conditioning coaches and the athletic trainers around the annual combines. And these are actually kind of really small affairs, even though they make a lot of press. Like there's mini trade show with 20 or 30 vendors there that sell stuff into the training facilities. But they tend to be open trade shows, and we would be trying to talk to another pro sports team. And these people would come up to our booth and start asking really smart, detailed, what we call sports performance questions. And they would have their badge flipped, so you didn't know who they were or who they were with. And so they just ask all these like really intelligent, insightful questions. And over time, we kind of realized that these were all military people. And it wasn't just and it wasn't just at the NFL show, and it wasn't just at the MLB show. It was like every place we went at the elite level athletics, there were military people showing up. And it just wasn't special forces, Navy, wasn't just special forces, Army, USASOC, and it wasn't just Marine, it was big Army, big Navy, all special forces units, and they didn't know each other. And so they just kept coming up to our booth and sort of like, this is really weird. So we figured out that we needed to get into there's a pretty market in this space. And we started casting around to figure out how we could get into this space. Trying to sell into the Army or sell into the DoD when you're starting from zero is pretty next to impossible. And so we started out looking for partners who we could work with in this space. We found a company out of Reston called TIAG, the Information Applications Group. They've been very helpful to us and a great partner for many, many years. And then as we started, we got awarded a couple are called SBIR grants, Small Business Innovation Research Grants, which helped us advance down this. It would give us some money so we could have 3-5 months to build a prototype, to which we already have the working software that matched against their business case very tightly. And that was all good. And we would be our system's about 20 or 30 modules, depending on how you want to count it. And any one of the modules might be very mature on what the DoD calls the TRL level, technology readiness level. That's all great. for a while, and the software works, and we were built natively in AWS. We've run in AWS for a very long time. We use all different types of AWS services. We go out, we work with the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, and it's all fun and games until somebody wants to do this for real. And then you want to get a cybersecurity credential. And then you just got to start over. You go right back to square one. It doesn't matter what the software does. I mean, the software could count to 2. But if it's not cyber secure, it's unusable in production settings. And so you have to get enough maturity in your relationships with your military customers that they're prepared to commit to you to go through the cyber process. And you think that
because it is a process, right? It is a huge process.
Yeah. You'd think that, so you're sitting there talking to your customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, imagine a DoD unit of some kind. Hey, Mr. Customer, you've been using our software in a de-identified way or in a trial basis. You've used it every which way to Sunday. You're very, very happy. We would like to graduate and do to a larger production deployment of this. And the customer will look at you and say, yes, I would. I want this. I want this. Do you have the budget? Maybe, probably. And then they say, oh, you're going to need some cybersecurity stuff. And we're like, great, we'll go get some cybersecurity stuff. Now, you would think that the customer, because they're your customer, will understand what they're asking for, but they have no clue. They have, unless you're talking to a very person who just focuses on this, and even the cyber people, very specific cyber people, they don't really understand the process in totality. And so they might understand it for their systems that they sit on. Those are very probably internal systems. So they don't see how you ingest a new system into a DoD environment. Now, recently, the DoD's been become like much more aggressive about trying to ingest faster systems. But when we started this about 4 years ago, Jackson, I forget, like cloud systems in the DoD like were not very prevalent. And while they used AWS and Azure and stuff at the time, that
I think you guys were 97. Is that right, Jackson? Is that the number that sticks in your head?
Yeah. Just a PA number 97.
Right.
Yes.
When you look at FedRAMP, several hundred.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have to sniff those folks out that actually know the process. And you might find someone who knows that very niche internal process that they got through their AO, but not the process that's expected through this AO. So it is a challenge getting through those.
Yeah, so they've got they perceive the world through the system that they've had, which might be a legacy system or something like that. So you might find someone who's very knowledgeable, and you say, okay, well, give me one of those. They have no idea how to go about doing it. And for all our internal tickets, we called this like, where's Waldo? Like, you just no idea what you were supposed to do next. And there's all this documentation that the
outdated
provides.
It's outdated.
But I read it. I could never understand it. I understood it like after we went through it. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah, it's somewhat cryptic, right? So the logistics around that process, I think we collaborated very well on, especially to your point when the customer doesn't know, and the documentation is really written for them to follow. It's like,
right.
Okay, we're here to help you. And in some ways we had to hold their hand on that.
Yeah. So you think that the customer doesn't really know. I've never found anybody that like understood it in its totality. Everybody gets it, their piece of it. And so I've just perpetually like wandering around in the dark, hitting my head on rafters in the attic, just could never find it. We never found anybody who'd say, okay, you did this, now you have to do this. We would kind of know. And so that's why I found our relationship with you guys to be invaluable, because there's like many different things that you guys bring to our team, one of which is the environment and the other which is like the consulting and the services to help explain it to us. So I've just been forever asking Jackson, like, what is this? Why are we doing this? What's this about? And he'd very patiently and slowly explain to me, okay, you're here, you're trying to get there. And so the number of the businesses that do this without an outside firm of some kind, I think they're all billion-dollar businesses. I don't know that, but I don't. If you're a mid-sized business and we're a small business, if you're a mid-sized business trying to do this, it's probably next to impossible, as far as I can tell. Without an expert, you would never like do a complex deal without a deal attorney. You would never try to build a nuclear reactor without nuclear engineers. You would never try to, operate on yourself. So, like, but for some reason, there's this in software. There's this thought like, I can figure this out. I'll do this myself. Like, no way.
Makes logical sense.
It makes logical sense. It's intuitive sense.
Right.
I remember, Gary, you're trying to, like, when early in the process, you're just like, hey, you're trying to sell. I'm like, Gary, there's no way we're going to build this ourselves. There's no way we're going to be able to figure this out. And I at least knew enough to understand that. So I just think that it's not knowable. And from a process standpoint, there's too much stuff to build. I would vastly rather get an expert who is deeply aware of this stuff, which we did with you guys, and has been just phenomenal.
And as we were going through this process, Jackson, talk to stories about they were changing some of these processes as we were trying to get you guys to go through them. The whole BCAP process, as an example, they were changing that on the fly as we were trying to get you to go through it. If I remember that correct.
Don't even remind us.
Yeah. So there's the credentialing, and then you got to like hook up, and like you're trying to like get the two plug in, and throughout the process, there was all of these. You can't do this. Like, you go to Office A and you say, I need a widget because I got to go fill out this form for Office B. And then you talk to Office A, and Office A says, oh, you got to get a gadget from Office B to fill out our form. And so I'm like, it took me 4 weeks to find those guys. And I just came back and they told me I needed to talk to you first. I'm like, oh, we're changing our process. So there goes 6 weeks. And so maybe your customer has funded you through all of that brain damage. Maybe they haven't. So there's just like, you end up like at risk. It's very easy to end up at risk at this stuff because the customer really can't deploy you until they have this, these certificates, these credentials, whatever you want to call them, some sort of assurance. So you need to get this like flywheel going where the customer is comfortable enough to keep putting money on contracts to advance through the cyber process, because it's a long one. And if they can't, because they can, again, they don't necessarily understand it, but they can look through and they can kind of smell if what you're doing is right, if you have good people on the team, because they know intuitively that the cyber is the limfac. Like, if you can't get the cyber, it doesn't matter. Again, the software is just trying to add 1 and 1 together and get 2, but you can't do it in production unless you are approved. And so you'll just hit all the business development discussions that just end, which is, where are you guys in cyber? We're working on it. So, and then like there goes, large contracts. You don't even get to a second phone call with them, even though they need your stuff and want your stuff.
Yeah, I think that's to Gary's point. Like we did notice a lot of change throughout that. Looking at the journey in its totality, we've been in operations now for a couple of years since getting authorized, and then additionally getting authorized through Army just recently. So congratulations to you and the entire team on that.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to you. Thank you.
Definitely a team effort, but I think it was made up of a lot of obstacles along the way that came with change in leadership. A couple of different times during our process, not only at the federal level, but also within the department itself. And one of the biggest changes I remember is we took this approach and case law that was based around your readiness assessment and having a full SAR. And we confirmed that with not only the audit team as well as with DISA. But then we reached our kickoff and they were like, yeah, sorry, policies changed, right? So I think what that challenge in itself taught us is that, okay, this is going to be a process that we have to constantly adapt
I just got
to.
a headache.
Yeah, exactly. I just brought memories back
Yeah.
as well when they were, because that's actually when they went back to doing the readiness assessment again inside the Department of Defense, because they didn't do them for a while. It was more of a, that looks
I'm like,
good, and
why
move
are
forward.
you doing this? Didn't we just do this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just always like endlessly puzzling to me. Like, I work with, as a executive, I work with a lot of experts in their field, so I'm always kind of half understand what they're saying, like the tax guys, the engineers, the marketing people, the this, and so I always am kind of just trying to understand what the hell's going on, and like never been more confused than like trying to understand where we are in the cyber stuff, what's left to go. Jackson, why are we here? Jackson, what does that mean when they said that? And so that's just been enormously helpful to us. And we would never have gotten here without it. And so we are one of 50 companies that have a DISA, what's called the DoD-PA, or provisional authorization. And so there's about, last time I checked, it was about 50 companies. Like 10 of those companies are Oracle, Microsoft, AWS, Salesforce, Okta, like brand name, IBM, brand names that we've heard of. And then this little company, CoachMePlus, is on the list as well. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jackson, how about you explore some of the overall kind of processes that we had to go through as well? Because I think what we were attempting to do here is somewhat new to the Department of Defense as well, from a platform perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I think that on top of that, positively, Teo, we were able to collaborate to get through those challenges and to do so quickly. The adaptability that both teams showed, I think, was excellent. And to your point, Gary, it was unique, right? So our model, XBU40, is really built around a multi-tenant approach, which takes all of this headache that we're talking about and attempts to streamline that, right? Not only from a control perspective, but also the logistics. You made a great point, Teo, that it's not just the services, it's also the consulting, the advisory. So helping our customers get through this headache of a process, and do so by saying, yeah, we knocked on that door last time, right? And the time before that, same thing happened. So let's go ahead and knock on this door this time to make sure that we can get a different response, or learn, hey, there's another change in the process that we weren't aware of. But from a process perspective, using the model, I think, helped take what you guys had, which was a very solid and honestly amazing product. The more we've worked with you guys, it's like my head is buried in the sand of the cyber side, just POAMs and SARs and SAPs and all the fun things that come with FedRAMP and DoD. But recently, getting to see more of that full demo we did for those Army stakeholders was phenomenal. I mean, it goes to show the value there, not only in taking really great software that are coming out of not only small and medium-sized businesses, but enterprise businesses as well, and wrapping them in a way that can be delivered and delivered fast, which falls in line with the Swift approach that we've been seeing out of DoD, their DevOps initiatives that we're seeing populate as well. And I think what we noticed with that is all these questions that you were getting from those stakeholders were like, hey, I'll just call up InfusionPoints. I'll say, hey, Jackson, do you have this deck? Do you have this diagram? Do you have this poem or spreadsheet or whatever it might have been? I mean, we had that because the services work with the advisory side. I can talk to the Cloud Ops team. They'll provide the Kanban package, or I can talk with, our other members of advisory. Let's get the diagrams over to them. But also doing so in a way that we know is secure and is what they expect. That goes to show, hey, this team knows what they're doing. And I think we got some really great feedback from the review teams through Army around, wow, this is one of the better packages that we've seen, and a lot of them get pushed through. So, Gary, maybe there's an area you want me to polish up there, but that's kind of like my thought on the platform, how it contributes to accelerating our customers, but also like the tangible outcomes is these DoD agencies, they do see that value in the quality of the deliverables that come out of these efforts.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead,
Gary.
No, you go ahead.
So the way we went through, we have a DIS approval, and then the model we use, you also need a mission owner approval. And so that's actually two totally different entities, and they have slightly different requirements, needs, personalities. And we went through the DISA process and we thought, haha, we're done. And then we go over to the mission owner. We're expecting them to like stamp it and move on. And then that started a new process. And so they weren't even particularly.
And if I remember right, it was several new processes, right?
Yeah.
Because
they weren't even particularly familiar with the DISA process, because they have their own cyber process and we were doing a cloud process. They don't do a lot of cloud software. They do all prem software. So even though these guys knew a lot about it, we were still trying to translate. And I'm like, why are you guys doing this? I thought we were done. And so when we sort of got Jackson in the mix with those guys, they started relaxing, and they can kind of see the constant beat of the Conmon reports coming out. They see alerts getting flagged on the 30, 60, 90 day. They see issues getting resolved. The temperature comes down and they start to begin the process. They sort of understand where they are. And so you sort of feel the customer's nervousness coming down, because somewhere along the line, somebody's got to sign the piece of paper that says, yes, we're prepared to run this inside our environment. And so whoever's that AO authorizing official has a pretty high standard that you have to hit. And you have to have all the technology, just everything's got to be completely perfect.
All the documentation that has to be uploaded. You have to do regular updates every single month.
Yeah, I think it's like I counted. It's 1,000 pages of documentation. So, like we have a engineering team that focuses on our software, which is big and complicated, and we don't have the ability to somehow magically find another person who knows how to rate 1,000 pages of documentation that matches this need. I mean, we have enough problems just meeting all of our customers' needs to just, hey, I need a button over here. How come this is like that? That's like a full-time job for us. And so being able to find a partner like you guys has just been incredible. And
nice.
And so in all the cyber meetings with this, like, we would chirp up, our engineers would chirp up to talk about specific stuff. I would talk about process stuff and why we're doing this, set the table for why the Army needs this, why it's important for them, what's the business case. And then after that, like, Jackson does all the talking, right? So like, I don't even necessarily understand what's going on, but he does, and the reviewer does, and they're happy. So that just makes our process so much easier, and I can focus on making sure the customer's happy. Because you can go through these times where you might have some contracts that run out of money because there are these valleys of death in there, and you say, hey, I can't get over to the next topic because I had RTD&E money, I had research money, and that money runs out in 2 months, but I've got another, the new money is O&M money, and that can't turn on until you have the cyber process complete. So again, the customer doesn't necessarily know. I think I can't fund you guys until you have all your cyber gold stars. Well, that's kind of a problem. So I can spend my time trying to worry about those macro level problems while the systems grow, while the process is grinding its way through.
That's, if I remember right, we partnered with you on helping you through some of that parts as well.
Yes, you did, and I remember it extremely well. So, like, we hit the wall.
Yep.
And again, customer doesn't know. The Army Group A, RD research, Army Group B they don't necessarily talk to each other. They kind of know. The research guys understand a little bit better about where they're going. But the operations guys, they just want their thing so they can like put it on their press and work it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we hit the wall in there. You guys were incredibly helpful helping us through that. And so I can't thank you enough for that. And so, and it wasn't like, again, I didn't know that I was going to hit the wall in there. So just a lot of, it's just seeing forward.
And this is a well-known thing within the Department of Defense, Department of War. It's still going to be hard for me to say go beyond the Department of Defense, but this is a well-known issue within the Department of War about small to mid-sized organizations who kind of go through the same phase that you did, right? The cyber side, and then you get a customer and they say, I can't use you until X, Y, or Z shows up. And they do call it the Valley of Death. That's exactly what they call it. And
it's all valleys of death. It's not a valley of death. It's like continuous valleys of death.
Yes,
so like how do you like plan? Because the other thing that's complicated here is that in order to meet a lot of these cyber gates, you have to have been continually running this program for 12 months.
Yeah.
So you're like,
wait a
continuous. Second. Yeah, continuous monitoring, not occasional monitoring.
Right.
It's not on. So
you just can't turn it off, right?
you can't turn it off. And so customer doesn't know that. Like, so they don't, hey, I got to deal with a 4-month gap in funding. Like, what is that? Like, how am I supposed to deal with that? And so I kept going to my customer saying, hey, explain this to me. Where are we in the process? They didn't know, couldn't find anybody that knew. And even when you're talking to DISA, we're like, we had finally got some really good relationship with DISA. Jackson made this guy really happy. Like everybody's all good. So then I was like, oh, we got to go down the hall and talk to this other group of DISA about something, connectivity or something. No problem. We got a guy. He'll tell us who to talk to. It'll be great. He had no idea what was going on in the other departments at DISA. So then I looked it up. This is 8,000 people. So there's like, there's again, no way to perceive the whole thing at once. You can only perceive pieces of it.
That's a really good realization right there, because a lot of people don't give them credit for the challenges that they do have. We were talking about this just the other day, and why can't the Army know what the Navy's doing? Well, they're both 300,000 people in those organizations. And then you start adding the active duty people in there, and next thing you know, the numbers are really going up. So it's very difficult for everybody to be able to communicate across those boundaries.
Yeah,
and any small to mid-size organization trying to get into this space, I mean, they have a whole bunch of challenges ahead of them. I applaud you for hanging in there and really pushing it forward, because it's not just the financial issues. It's just like you were saying earlier. It's the understanding and what documents do I need to develop? Who do I need to who do I need to talk to? And oh yeah, by the way, I got to surf on the surfboard for a little while because all the stuff is changing. Meanwhile, you have this great bit of software that needs to get in the hands of the operators.
But, the customer's dying for it, right? They're not like they came here. They got here not because they kind of needed it, like they really, really, really needed it, and they didn't like find me because they wanted, something. They've got a very mission critical problem. So the DoD is 2.2 million people.
Right. It's huge.
And that's war fighters. And then there's another huge, massive pile of another million of contractors and support groups. So it's just massive. And there's critical software that runs it. And if you had a 3 million person organization, there was a large, multinational corporation, like just navigating that is easy without these very highly restrictive rules and processes. Now you do have threat actors all over the planet that are trying to get in, so there are real substantive reasons why
there is. I mean, everybody's trying to get in, so there is real reasons why you need to apply all these security controls and all this rigor into what we're doing. I don't think anybody will say that, but I think at the same time, there's a lot of companies out there just like yourself who have a great product, but they can't figure out how to get it into the market. I'm not even going to talk about the acquisition side or any of that,
Yeah.
because that's a whole nother set of problems,
Yeah,
right?
that's different.
This is,
Yeah.
right. This is just the technology in the, all right, I made it past the acquisition stuff. Now I need to
Yeah.
figure out how to get all these other things in play in order to be able to sell our stuff, into the marketplace. And it really does become a challenge, because you don't, if you don't have that certification, or if you don't have that ability to survive going from the SIBRs or one of those research grants into an operational phase, and it can be a long time. It can be a
Yeah, I think,
really long
yeah,
time.
I think that if again, there's different types of customers, but with you guys on another customer, another vendor's team, like they can have some clarity, like, hey, we got these guys, InfusionPoints, they got a lot of ATOs, they've been through this, they're telling us this is kind of what it is. Like, you're going to know more about the process than your Army or DoD customer is. I mean,
Right.
InfusionPoints is. And so you're going to educate your customers like, aha, okay, well, I need a box of money that's this big for this many months in order to survive that.
Right.
Survive that process. And so they can say, okay, I talked to these InfusionPoints guys, and they said we can do this, but it's going to take about this long, and it's going to cost about this much. Do you guys, Mr. DoD customer, DOW customer, have this money? And they'll say, yeah, I got that. Let me plan around that. Or that, no, I don't. So let's try something different. We can run it as a pilot. So we did a lot of pilots along the way to get
Right.
that were in .com, so that the customer could say, oh, I get it. This stuff works. It does what I want it to do. And so they could build stakeholder approval internally.
Yeah.
One thing
I
I'm
tell
super
you, it's
curious
a,
about,
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Justin.
I think it would be valuable for the audience too, is that transition. Because one of the biggest things we say up front is you got to have that sponsor champion, right? You have to
Yes.
build that relationship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be the one who's got the power of the pen out of the gate. So if you could talk us through building that relationship, right, as well as perhaps the transition when we had that that transition to the AO's office and to that review team where the dynamic shifted. I think that'd be super valuable to help some of our audience understand.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know about other people, how they worked through it, because there's a lot of different ways to do this. But how we did it is, since we came out, we had a commercial solution. We were selling to pro sports teams, NCAA teams, gyms, fire stations. So we had a working software. And so we had a commercial oriented working software. And the Army needed that pretty much exact use case, but like on steroids. And so we answered by stroke of luck with an SBIR contract. We didn't know anything about SBIR contracts. We had these buddies in TIAG who helped coach us through it. And so we got our foot in the door with this. So you need the customer, you need the contracting vehicle, and you need the money. So you need those three separate things, which may or may not be in the same place, and often are different. And then after you get all those things to start moving, and you do that for a while, and there's enough interest, then you're going to need a cyber. If you can tell your customer, coach your customer through where they are, because they're not going to know. They should know. You think they know because of your customer, but they're not going to know, most probably, unless they've done it a couple times before with people who have had this. We ended up with critical team member, or a critical partner, I should say, in Army Applications Lab, a guy named Lieutenant Colonel Nick Rinaldi out of AAL in Austin. AAL makes a specialty inside of the Army for commercializing, taking commercial stuff, figuring out what we need to do to change it, to tweak it, to make it work in the Army. So you got this stuff that works, as opposed to like a de novo build coming out of different Army R&D labs. So hey, we're starting with a white sheet of paper and we want to build something new. This group says, hey, there's stuff in industry, we want to commercialize it and make it work inside our house. And the current school of thought, the current administration, is really focused on how do we take stuff that works in the commercial environment and make it work. And that's part of the SBIR process. For those who happen to be listening who don't know, the SBIR puts out problem studies once every like 3 times a year. And they say, hey, we got this challenge, we got that challenge, we got that challenge. If you have a commercial solution that reads on it, lob in a proposal. So, and so they were very helpful for solving this exact problem. But for them as well, they were just like killing themselves trying to get us through this cyber process. And they were very, very happy when you guys came in.
Thanks for the insight.
You know, it's so sort of the stuff we always try to tell our customers going into this. This stuff is really hard. You know, I know we're seeing some really cool things on the civil side with the whole FedRAMP 20X. It's, you know, speeding things up, and we're hoping that DoD can pick up some of that. We're seeing some of it in the Army and some other places in the Department of Defense with the whole CATO perspective. I'm not really seeing it kind of filtered out though. We got some memos. We have some, you know, some things on the DoD side that are attempting, it looks like, to, you know, make some of this stuff somewhat easier. You know, but I haven't seen it yet. You know, I'm just curious on your thoughts on, you know, like, have you been following the 20X stuff at all that's going on the PMO side?
Yeah, we haven't followed the process stuff. I mean, I can like barely hold on to the stuff to do all the stuff that Jackson tells me to do. So I like barely hold my stuff together. And so, but we do see like procurement pathway stuff coming out of the DOW that says we want more commercial stuff. Right. And also, there's a memo that came out just recently that said we're going to focus on time to market. Which is something that the DoD has never really talked about before, because it's been, hey, we're going to build this magical thing. It's going to be huge, and it's going to, you know, we're going to have 1,000 criteria, and it's going to, like, if we get to 999, and there's still one more, we're going to wait 6 months and add another couple $1 million to the project till everything's perfect. So, the current administration is focusing on empowering acquisition officers to make trade-offs. Say, okay, well, I want 1,000 things, so I can only get 600, but I can get them in a month, as opposed to waiting 26 months to get all of them. And by the way, if I get these, they'll be, I can buy it much cheaper and faster. And so there's this pressure that's coming down from above. It says, get this stuff, you know, into the warfighter's hands, or into the procurement officer's hand, or into the logistics officer's hands, who's just trying to do basic stuff like inventory, and take a piece of commercial software and use it quickly. And so that is I think that's a pretty heavy push from it. Makes a lot of sense, right? Hey, this software works. It counts beans or whatever in the commercial sector. It's done it forever. We need it inside DoD. And so there's a push on that. So I think there's going to be like more people that are ending up at your desk that say, these guys want my stuff. How do I do that? They have money. Like, what do I do? And then you guys can tell them what they need to do. And they'll turn around and tell their customer, because your customer is going to think that the Army guys knows what's going on, but he's just trying to get his stuff done. He doesn't know. So
and that leads me to the next question. It really is for both of you guys, because I'd like to hear it from both of you guys, if it's okay. Is your advice to somebody who's just starting this process out? You know, what's the top 3 to 5 things that you would say, you know, from your perspective, Teo? What do you see? And then Jackson, you know, what do you see as well? So, 3 to 5 things. What do you need to do if you're a software company and you want to do business in the DoD?
Well, I would start, if it's me, I would start with a gap assessment. Like I came to you guys, AWS referred us to you through a friend. And so they said, call these guys. I'm like, okay, who are these guys? So, and then you said, start with a gap assessment, so you can at least know what's going on. I had this intuition that our stuff was probably pretty good on the security side, and pretty bad on the documentation side. And that was indeed true, but they also laid out the 5 or 10 things that we needed to do on the technology side, the stuff that we control inside our code base. Oh, this doesn't work. You got to add this. You're not tall enough to ride on this ride until you do these things. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that was a controllable amount of work. It was like 3 or 4 months worth of work. So we could like, okay, I can see this. I can now communicate to my customer that says, okay, we're going to do this. And so we could start, we just started backlogging that and saying, cutting it down, because of course those 4 months of work all have preconditions, and you got to start like setting it up, and we can like work it into our natural development cycle. And then that put us in. So I would start with that, get a gap assessment, see where you are. Jackson and his team come in and they look at your stuff and say, show me this, show me this, show me this, and say, okay, here are your big gaps. It's a fairly, I don't remember how long it was. It's kind of a drive-by.
4 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, drive through audit type of thing, review. And that helped us understand where we were, and that's invaluable. And I think most companies could do that pretty quickly, and so they can understand where they are and process, and they can also start communicating with their customer. Hey, this is where we are. I talked to these InfusionPoints cyber guys. They say I need to fix these things. And also you can start getting your arms around the costs.
Right.
Since you guys charge us for the stuff, and then we have a third party auditor, the way we did it, we can either eat that into our license to the customer, or we can pass it through as a third party cost. And so, but the cost is extant in the system, regardless of how you recapture it. And so, we could start communicating to them, and they can start putting in their budget cycles. And
Great point.
Yeah, yep. So they were like, aha. So, and they know the cost is extra.
That's a really good point, because a lot of people don't do that part, right? I'm going to sell you the software, and by the way, oh my God, I have to get it secured. Oh, that's only like $5,000, right? So
yeah, $5,000, couple months, it'll be fine. No,
you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not. Also, the Army, since we started this with the InfusionPoints team, the Army has built up like their own cloud stuff. So they have ECMA, which is their own cloud environment, and which has AWS, and you can kind of build stuff in that. But if you already have your own AWS stack, it's much easier to port it inside of your guys' stuff. And so, also the customer understands that. They understand clarity and time to market and robustness. And so right now, our DoD customers are extremely happy with you guys, because we got through the process and they got their stamp, and they can get the software that they need to help their business problems right now. And anytime you get into the DoD, the business problems are just so massive. Like if you can solve any kind of problem for 2 million people, it like pays for itself instantly. So they're very happy to pay these fees if you can show them clarity and a pathway forward.
Yeah, I think as a SaaS provider too, that's a big point you made around ECMA as the example, right? Like there are opportunities to deploy within that environment, but as a SaaS provider, as a business, there's a decision there around what you want to do to scale it. If you're deployed fully in an Army system, that changes the dynamic of how you sell to Navy or Air Force or others.
Oh yeah.
And
yes.
And that market pathway changes, because it's all right. Now, am I managing multiple stacks, one in ECMA, and then I have one? If you follow what's intended to be through the DISA provisional authorization process, hopefully in the future with 20X and Swift, right? You can get that more scalably across various components within the department, which I think is a very good point you made. You made that decision, right? It was, all right, we wanted to scale this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that you can, so if the ECMA stuff is good for certain things, but if you're trying to provision things, like you have to go ask for resources, and then you're in a queue somewhere internally. And
you control your own destiny when you do it on your own.
Yeah, so we can provision stuff in AWS. We need a new thingy. We need a new AWS whatever. Like, boop, we can press a button and it spins up. And so, if there's a problem,
You got to talk to me first. You got to make sure we.
It's really easy.
Get that thumbs up.
Jackson's a
But you know
sophomore.
Jackson, you know Jackson's phone number.
Yes, and that's true. So
We'll push it through.
we can, there's a problem. We like talk to the engineering team, figure it out. So it's just we can, like, you get clarity of process, and that you don't necessarily have with that. And also, because we went with the DISA route, we can also, so now that we have a security credential, like, all these people are starting to come out of the woodwork that says, "Ooh, you got a thing, right? I can now buy from you." Like, and I've talked to some of these people for 5 years, and they're just like, "Yeah, call me when you got cyber, man, because I'll get it. But I don't want to deal with the brain damage." So, like, all these doors have started opening because they know we're through the process.
Cool.
For my three, I mentioned it earlier, but the sponsor, I think, but in a dynamic way. You don't have to have the power of the pen right out of the gate. Just have that champion who wants to buy the product that you can work with and find the path to the AO within that component, within that division, wherever it might be. But don't let that slow you down, right? As long as you have that sponsor champion. The second one would be the big rocks that you talked about, Teo. Getting those up front and understanding those up front can take the 450 requirements, including controls and the SRG and everything you have to do, and then boil that down to these domains that we've seen time and time again be the big pitfalls. BCAP, right? Like the organizations that we know logistically, but also the technology and how you're connecting. Is your system ready for that? XB40 kind of enables that for you. Hey, here's the platform. Here's the plug, for lack of a better term.
Provides a lot of the controls automatically for you, right? So you don't have to worry about a lot of those big rocks because we've already built them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
knowing they're there too, and also at the application level, so that you can plan properly, because you do have to allocate those cycles for anything that is above and beyond.
The stuff that we had to add at the application level to meet this, like all the login stuff. So, like, that's on us. And so we want to change login flow for X to support SSO or whatever, pick a thing. So that happens at our level in our application. And then there's all this other stuff that has to happen in our level, our applications. Hey, you got these libraries that are out of date. So InfusionPoints can't fix that because it's inside our app, and we don't really want them to. And so, but we have enough just dealing with our own stuff. And there's a whole world out there that you guys provide that there's, no way we would ever do that. And so we just, like, can't thank you guys enough.
Thanks, Teo. The last thing I would say, Gary, to your question is scoping the boundary. I think a lot of customers we work with have all this stuff. They have various modules, components, different stacks, whether it be containerized or hosted. They're using third-party services. Like, where do I draw the line, especially in the context of new guidance around what is in scope, what's an ancillary service, what is supporting federal data, what is metadata. It's just being able to draw that line, saying this is in, this is out. Here's where the residual risk is to the customer data. Here's how we classify it. That's the biggest advice I would, like, out of the gate. Know what you're going to go through with, and where you may have some future state things that you want to include that you don't, you want to save some money on down the road for audits and changes. But yeah, those would be my big three things, and appreciate the question.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I truly appreciate both you guys' time on the podcast today. Hopefully, Teo, you got some out of it as well. I do like to ask some kind of crazy personal questions, if you don't mind. They're not really that crazy, but
bring it on, baby.
Yeah. So I always like to ask, what's your favorite book? And if you could answer why, that would be awesome as well.
Ooh, favorite book. That would be like hundreds of them.
No, just one. That's all.
I can't do one. Gary. I can't do one. I'd have to do, like, stuff that I've read recently. I could do like sleeves of books, like, stuff like historical. I'm doing a lot of historical. I would do there's a book called 1491, which is like the Americas before Columbus. 1493, which is the Americas after Columbus. There's a book called Empire of the Summer Moon, which is about the Comanches.
Wow.
Also,
That sounds interesting.
Nothing Like It in the World by Ambrose Bierce, which is the story of the building the Transcontinental Railroad, how they got it financed, how they got it built. There's also, I forget who's got a biography of Andrew Jackson and the Battle of New Orleans. It's fabulous. Killer Angels, which is a novelized account of Gettysburg, which is super.
You're impressing the heck out of me right now.
Yeah, so those are all like crazy good. Then there's all these like survival books that are that I went through a cycle of those. William Barents, the guy who was the Barents Sea is named after, who tried to circumnavigate across the top of Russia, didn't go very well, but it was in like the 1530s. Just a lot of
that's really interesting.
I enjoy that stuff.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's really interesting.
Nice.
You gotta top that, Jackson, can you?
Probably not. I am into podcasts. I don't read as much, but I think my favorite book would probably be Crime and Punishment, because I went into it thinking, this is going to be an uphill battle and I'm never going to finish.
Right.
But it was surprisingly readable. I didn't expect to be as readable as it was.
Gary, there's a metaphor right there. There's the guy who can read the DISA regulations liked Crime and Punishment. I think.
Yeah, right.
What is that?
There's
like
a lot.
1,000 pages.
There's
a lot.
That's what I should have said
there.
My nightly reading is the SRG. That's my favorite book of all time.
Okay. Anybody is Jackson, I think we would believe you.
Anybody who's listening, if you like listening to reading Crime and Punishment, do it yourself. If you can't take it, call Jackson and Gary, and they'll figure it out for you. They'll give you the cliff notes on what actually happens in Crime and Punishment.
That's awesome.
Yes,
that's awesome.
My line is open.
There you go. So, what about what's your favorite TV show or movie? It's either one.
That's a good one. I would say movie-wise, The Shining is up there. Is probably one of my favorite.
Stephen King.
That's a fantastic film.
Which one, the TV one or the
Kubrick?
Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. It's a beautiful film. It is
dark,
but it is one of the better films that I've ever seen.
Gary,
TV shows, I watch a ton.
Again, Gary.
And another one?
Crime and Punishment and The Shining. Yes. Like,
I gotta lighten it up.
This is why Jackson can survive in the cyber world, because like that's his like go-to, So
I've been watching with my partner Taylor. She's been getting me into Love is Blind. So that's on the complete end of the spectrum, but that's a reality TV show that's just like a guilty pleasure.
Wow. Yeah, that is. Yeah, it is.
How about you, Teo?
I don't have like one perfect movie, but if I did, it would probably be Forrest Gump, just because I like that. It's like it's a great tale of Americana and like two halves of America, and I really enjoyed that. But I put together a movie list for all the people and the 20-somethings in our company who think that like movies are just like superhero movies. Like they don't know that there's like film out there. So I also put together a bunch of like enjoyable movies in that in that genre of stuff.
Nice.
So things that aren't.
I really like Independence Day and Armageddon. Those are like some of my favorites. So I like crazy,
a powerful swell. Yeah.
I use a lot of lines in Armageddon in my daily conversations. We have 21 days. Yeah. whatever the number is, I always say a different number for whatever it is. It doesn't matter what the number is.
When we did our first audit, I think you sent a clip from Armageddon.
I did.
One to Teo and the team. It's like we're heading into the worst possible situation ever imaginable.
I love it.
But
I love it. That's another great one.
It's like you set it up here, and then we get through it with no issues. So
right,
that ended up well.
Yeah, there you go. And the last one is, we're big on service, and I really like to think about something you did this past summer that maybe impacted somebody's life in one way or another. It could be a family member or anybody else as well. So even customers.
I have a couple outside board gigs for nonprofit stuff. So I'm on the board of a small college near me, and it's a foundation board, so it's a fundraising efforts, and I provide like general financial advice to those guys, and they're doing really, really well. And so that's something where you get to go in and like move the needle. And so I can like provide some advice and I can contribute. And when you see like your ability to move things, it's like that's really rewarding, and also you get to help somebody else.
It is. I sat on a few local boards here and then a college one as well, and just listening to the challenges. They're way different than our challenges. So.
For me, I actually moved to Durham, North Carolina recently. So I joined a local organization called Keep Durham Beautiful, cleaning up, doing some walkthroughs around trails and areas of the town, just, trying to help out and pick up litter, clean up the city. So that's been rewarding.
Cool. Well, guys, I truly appreciate all the questions and answers, and the time that you spent with us. As always, I may not be on the episode hosting sometimes, but you can always find somebody behind the shield. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary.
Teo, and Jackson, very much appreciate.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much.